All right, in this section, we're going to go over variable operators, specifically comparison operators. And there are 6 comparison operators in PineScript. There is the less than operator, there's less than or equal to, there's a not equal to, equal, greater than, and finally the greater than or equal to operator. Now these do basically what you think they would do. And the result when comparing any 2 operands or more is always going to be a constant Boolean. And if you have a series, you're going to get a series Boolean. So you can compare numbers, you can compare strings, limited to just the equals. You can compare series, you can compare Booleans and colors and even labels and lines. So for numbers, it's pretty straightforward, very simple. You just use the operator between the 2 operands. So 2 is less than 2. It's going to be false, and it's going to return a constant bool here. And 2 is less than NA. You can actually use the NA variable within that. It's always going to be false whenever you're comparing against an NA variable. 2 is less than or equal to 2, true. This one's going to be true for 2 to equal to 2. Even floats, 2 is equal to 2.0. This actually ends up being true. In some programming languages, you might get false with this because they're different types, but in PineScript, it's going to be true. 2 is obviously not equal to 3, so that's going to be true. 2 is greater than -1, so this is going to be true. 2 is greater than NA. Well, this is always going to be false because it's an NA variable. 2 is greater than or equal to 2. This is true because it's equal. For strings, we can't use the less than or less than equal to. We'll get an error. We also can't use the greater than or the greater than or equal to for strings. We'll also get errors. So you are limited to just the equal or not equal to. So is this character A equal to this character A? Yes, they're identical. So that will return a constant Boolean. It's not going to return a string, it's going to return a Boolean. And that's going to be true for that. You can also, this is kind of unique here, an empty string with no spaces or anything is going to be equal to the NA variable. And that's going to be a true. If you have a space though in your empty string, it's not going to be equal to NA. That'll be false. So here we have this completely empty string is not equal to this spaced string. It's going to be true. It's not equal to that. For series, like I said before, the result is going to be series bool. You're going to get a series of booleans, so it's going to be true and false, or true or false, or all true or all false, depending on the comparison. And you can compare series against just integers or floats, even NAs. So here we have close, less than 2. This is going to be true or false, depending on where you are in the series. Close is less than NA. This will most likely always be false. Low is less than or equal to high. This will most likely always be true unless there's an NA variable somewhere in the series, because the low can't ever be greater than the high. It could be equal to it if the price didn't move anywhere in a day or whatever time frame you're on. Close is equal to 2. This is true. I mean, this could be true or it could be false. When you look at your series Boolean, you'll see the result of that. Close is not equal to the close. Well, this will probably always be false because they're the same thing. If it was close was equal to the close right here with these two, with this operator, then that would most likely always be true. And here the high is greater than a float. Well, that's going to be true or false, the result, depending on where you are in the series. And high is greater than low, greater than or equal to low. Similar to this, it's going to be true or false. Most likely it'll be true most of the time. And you can also compare against Booleans, except you can't use, similar to the strings, you can't use the less than or equal to, or the inverse of that, with the greater than or equal to. So here we can just do, is true equal to true? Well, that's true. Is true equal to false? That's false. Is false equal to false? True. It's going to return a constant Boolean. And false is equal to NA. That's false. Is true equal to NA? That's false. So the only thing I've found that's actually equal to the NA is with a string, an empty string here. So that's actually true. So here, true is equal to 1. That's actually false. In some programming languages, you might actually be able to compare true is equal to 1 because 1 represents a high, 0 represents a low, and you can equate those to true and false. But in PineScript, you can't. So that's going to be false. Is false equal to a string? You get an error if you do that. So you can't compare booleans and strings. Is true not equal to false? Well, this is going to be true because it's not equal to false. It's equal to true. It's kind of like a negation. And moving on to comparison with colors, we can do color green is equal to color green. Well, this is going to be a constant boolean. That's going to be true. It's going to return that here, and it's going to say, yeah, that's true. Okay. You can even do the hexadecimal version of the color. So this 4CAF50 is actually the equivalent to color green in hexadecimal. And I'm actually testing if it's not equal to the same exact thing. So is this not equal to this? Well, that's going to be false because it is equal to that. And here I can actually compare the PineScript built-in variable for green to the hexadecimal version of green. And that's going to be returning true because it's equal to. Is this color equal to this? Yes, it is. It's the same color. However, if you are using hexadecimal, you need to make sure, if you're going to compare two hexadecimals, I don't know where you do this, but down here I actually have the same exact colors. So these will output green because it's not case sensitive when PineScript is generating the colors from hex. But when you're comparing hexes, they need to be the same case. Otherwise, it's going to return false. So here, it's color green and hex, color green and hex, the same exact colors, but they're lowercase CAF. So that's going to be not equal. It's going to be false. Is it equal to that? Well, technically, yes, but to PineScript, no. And here I've just done a comparison of the results. So these are just booleans. And eColor here, this is going to be true. Is it equal to eHex right here? This is false, so is true equal to false? No, that's false. So just to show you guys, here I'm going to add this to the plot, add it to the chart, and this is going to be eHex, which is this color. It's going to be false. So in order to show the booleans on the plot, we actually need to do this special ternary operator. You probably haven't seen this yet, but if it's false, it's going to return a 0. It's going to show a plot of 0. If it's true, it's going to plot a 1. And I could put any number here, but this is what I'm equating it to. Just true is 1, false is 0. This is how you plot booleans. So I'm just plotting this, and I'm plotting this. So this is actually going to be false, and I want to show you that. So they're actually both 0. They're going to be 0 all the way through. And you can compare labels and lines. This is how you initialize a line right here. Basically, you can put in some parameters here, and I'm just doing some basic initialization for some lines. So I got line 1, line 2, they're identical lines with the variables that you're initializing. So this is the line will start at x1, x2, x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's just the points that you can plot them for the line. And then the same one will start at the same exact point. But when I compare them, e line 1 is equal to e line 2. This will actually end up being false, because although they're identical lines, they are not identical objects for PineScript in the back end. That might be kind of confusing because they're the same in one shape, like visually they're the same, but the way they're identified in the back end, at least with lines and labels, you're only allowed to have maximum 50 on your chart. So they're unique. Each one is unique when you make a new line. And we'll get into that in another section. But just to show you guys, you can compare these. And you can do the same thing with labels, which is just another object similar to line. So to show you, I'm going to plot the results here of the line bool. And it's popping up as false, which is going to be 0 in this case. You can't plot false and true. So false is set to 0. And here we have 0 all the way through. So yeah, you think these would be equal, but they're not. And that's comparisons.